Merkel Media.
What does the goddamn line say, Tony?
Please do not language.
Then what? I'll be arrested, put in airport jail.
Look, you're going completely sideways, man.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
How dare you?
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
Jack Marius Tactheratrix. Hi, I'm Spartacus.
Jackson, Sacramento, he, him. Steven Seagal.
Sex offender guy.
I'm Keith Morris.
This is
I'm Rick James.
Through the Lies.
The hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
We cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
And uncovering the centuries-long plan.
Having some food.
Let's talk about Chinese.
In a Turkish prison. Swangled for lockdown.
I have sent 6 of my Libyan Lord, this is hardware department.
Nothing could be more fun than jumping off a cliff with 2 German bisexuals.
Oh, you English are so superior, aren't you?
Thank you, comrade.
And now, Macroaggressions.
That's what assholes call it.
With your host,
Buddy, I don't know who you are, but you're about to get chlamydia.
Charlie Robinson.
Hey, Whitey, where's your hat?
You want to drop the blame on Charlie and say it's all Charlie's fault.
He was a retard.
I get some goddamn diuretic.
Welcome to Macroaggressions. I'm your host, Charlie Robinson. If you are watching us on Rockfin, Odyssey, Band.video, Vigilante.tv, or you're listening wherever podcasts are served, thanks so much. We appreciate it. If you like the show, you can rate it, you can subscribe to it, you can share it with your friends. All those things help. Connect with me. The website is theoctopusofglobalcontrol.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at Macroaggressions. Thank you to our amazing sponsors, and thank you to the audience for allowing me. Listen, I got to read the sponsor stuff. I know you don't love it, but I try to coordinate the sponsors, that make sense for the topics that we discuss, things like that. The people over at My Patriot Supply have been with us for, coming on, maybe 2.5, almost from the very beginning. We really appreciate them. They sell storable food and a variety of other items. I hope you don't need it. I really do. I've got buckets of it here. It's just one of those things. It's an insurance policy on insanity. And God knows, listen, we've got bank runs, we've got issues with the dollar, we've got issues with supply chains, we've got food processing plants just exploding, we've got fertilizer issues in Russia and Ukraine. There's a lot going on that normally isn't happening. And all of these things are contributing factors into making food potentially more scarce around here. If you want to just kind of knock this stuff out all at once and make sure that you have a couple months of storable food on hand, just in case something bad happens, or maybe you want to hook up your friends and family that live out of state because they think you're a tinfoil hat wearing nutter, but you know that there's some bad things on the horizons. You want to make sure, even though they don't agree with you, you want to make sure to hook them up. We've got a website called preparewithmacroaggressions.com. The link is in the description. You can take a look. You can, in 10 minutes, you can basically sort yourself out for the next couple of months with food and a variety of other things. Look, I hope you don't need it, but if you do, you've got it. And you'd rather be a month or two early than a day or two late on this. So again, I'm not coming from a place of fear, though. Listen, the idea of not having food is obviously terrifying, but just a place of being proactive and being prepared and being ready. So preparewithmacroaggressions.com is the website. Check it out if you need storable food. Also, thanks to our newest sponsor, EMP Shield. Again, hope you don't need the product. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's lightning strikes and things like that, solar flares, those things happen. Those are sort of natural phenomena that EMP Shield definitely protects you against. But also, listen, we got to talk about the possibility of them knocking out the power grid. And I've seen so much predictive programming on blackouts and things like that, and a world without electricity and the grid goes down and everything. And look, I mean, we're all going to be in a world of shit if that happens. But at the bare minimum, if you want to protect your home, your car, your boat, RV, your generator, whatever, EMP Shield has a product. That's many times more efficient than a single-use military design. In fact, the military was sort of envious of the design that EMP Shield built. Okay. It works better than theirs, frankly. So, it protects against EMPs. It protects against lightning. It protects against solar flares. It's fitted to the household circuit breaker with just 4 wires. You can install it like a Type 2 surge protector. There's installation videos on their website. There's installation videos on YouTube and other platforms like that. Or you can just hire an electrician if you're not comfortable with it, have them come in and set it all up. It's available in most countries. If you go to empshield.com, you can read up on it. If you think it's right for you, you can use the promo code MACRO. That will definitely save you a bunch of money. You can get bundle packages, which will, get you a house and a car system for a little bit cheaper. It's something to consider. Again, I hope you don't need it. I hope none of us need it. But if you live someplace, if you live in Tampa Bay, I lived outside of Tampa for a while during the summer. They don't call their hockey team the Tampa Bay Lightning for nothing. Okay. There's lightning strikes all over the place. So it's just, if you're talking about like a practical thing, it could work for lightning. If you're talking about we put our tinfoil hats on, EMPs are a possibility. We've got Chinese balloons flying. Who the fuck knows what's going on? Anyway, empshield.com is the website. Read up about it. Macro, promo code MACRO if you are looking to purchase something. Well, I've been sort of on a bender where I'm going back through recent history. I mean, 100 years or so. I'm not going back to like the Romans or anything, but recent history to kind of understand as best I can why we are the way we are. And I have a pretty good idea, but I have blind spots, and when I've written a couple books, as you know, and you research a variety of things, but there's always more to know. And there's always a deeper, you may know of a group and you go, oh yeah, they're bad guys. Well, how bad are they? Why are they bad guys? What are they doing? Like, I remember always hearing about, the Fabian Society. Right, Fabian socialists, and how dangerous they were. And anytime you're a socialist, you are disconnected from reality. It sounds good. I admit the concept of socialism sounds good on the surface, but studies have shown that once you move out of like groups that are bigger than 200 or 300 people, it starts to break down. It's great if you've got, if you're on some, I don't even know if I could say it's great if you're on some commune, but you could maybe make it work on a commune, right? Provided that the leader of the commune doesn't force you at gunpoint to drink Kool-Aid. But if you were with a bunch of like-minded people and you weren't being run by psychopaths, you could maybe say, like, you do the laundry and I'll do the growing and that guy over there does the mechanical work because he's better at it. And we'll all sort of, pool our resources and we'll make it work, and if we're able to do that, then it'll be a better situation. I don't know. I mean, maybe, right? Maybe it like I said, it sounds good on paper. In reality, it always leads to people being lined up against walls and shot in the back of the head, which never, it's never a good thing. But I think it's important for us to sort of understand when especially here in America, when we've got this group, like, of the Democratic, the AOC, these dipshits out there, that are talking about, well, actually, we're going to do this and this and this, and it's all going to be great, and we're going to be stunning and brave, and we're going to, and you listen to these people and you go, you have a 4th grade education. AOC has a 4th grade education. She is objectively dumb, right? She's hard to listen to. So it's tough to take her seriously. So it's easy to dismiss her and this group as just being a bunch of dum-dums, which of course they are. But if you dig into the ideology of the Democratic Socialists, what you discover is that this is 100 years in the making. Okay. This is not some accident. And on top of that, what they're really pushing for is covert. What they don't even understand the game, because they think that they're pushing for unicorns and rainbows, and what they're going to get is gulags and firing squads. But they don't know that, because what they never seem to understand is that the people that push this and bring it forward at some point become expendable, as Yuri Bezmenov said. They go up against the wall themselves, but they never see that coming. They think that they're too smart for that. They think that if that was going to happen, surely they would have seen it coming, or this ideology isn't about that. And let me tell you, the ideology of democratic socialism eventually devolves into firing squad. The good Cambodia stick that they've got because you're wearing glasses and they think you're smart. Okay, so I think it's important for us to sort of peel back and go back, get in our DeLorean, go back to like the late 1800s and kind of understand where this concept came from, and then move a little bit forward through there and see where we've gotten now. Because I think to understand the current paradigm and to know where we're going in the future, you sort of need to understand the past and know who's behind this. Because if you're waiting for AOC to give you the rundown on what democratic socialism means, you're never going to get it. She doesn't know. She's not in the know. She's one of the useless, expendable people that eventually, as Bezmenov says, gets put up against the wall. But she'll never see it coming, because she'll be at Starbucks ordering a venti latte, waiting for her Tesla to charge, and they'll say, "Come with us, we need to talk to you," and then it's over. So let's dig into this. The Fabian Society, right? This is the Fabian Socialist. The Fabian Society is a British socialist intellectual movement. It always starts with people that think that they're smarter than everyone else, and maybe in this case, maybe they are a little. They're definitely more organized and 100% more diabolical in their plans than the average person. But to call them intellectuals, I don't know. It's discussed by the highbrow British society, but it's always just veiled racism. Like, how can we get rid of all the undesirable brown people in the pores? That's always sort of just under the surface. Doesn't really wind up in the writings as much, because it kind of looks like genocide when this is a sales pitch, and genocide isn't the best marketing campaign when you're trying to get people to come over to your side, but it's there, and it's always there, and it's just below the surface. So what they wanted to do, what the Fabian Society wanted to do was, and that's a huge component of it, is covertly, advance socialism behind the scenes. United Kingdom, also in the former colonies of Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and then eventually, they wanted to, outsource this or send it to America. Because this is an ideology. Again, you have to kind of go back to this late 1800s, Cecil Rhodes round table movement, talking about linking up the Anglo-Saxon, white Anglo, English-speaking worlds together into these groups, and then the ones that were under British rule, either the colonies or the ones that are naturally English-speaking, and sort of connect them all together into this new world order, which they fucking call for in their own words, a new world order. Again, when we start talking about the new world order, we get fitted for a tinfoil hat. When George H.W. Bush mentions the New World Order 200 times, we're just supposed to pretend like that's totally normal. When the British Fabian Society talks about a New World Order 100 years ago, what are we supposed to do? Pretend like it doesn't exist, like there isn't a plan? There is a plan. And we're going to get into the plan. The plan sucks, but it's a plan nonetheless. So it was founded in 1884. And was immediately filled with the likes of George Bernard Shaw and H.G. Wells, two guys that, mind you, of the undesirables. There's always this. Depopulation, eugenics. Whenever you start talking about new world order, one world government, go ahead and connect depopulation and eugenics to that, because you cannot have one without the other. government without depopulation and eugenics. You probably could have depopulation and eugenics without the one world government, but they go very well together. There's a theme here. So George Bernard Shaw, H.G. Wells, Bertrand Russell, Annie Besant, who's the founder of Theosophy. If you want to find out good information about Annie Besant, you can find Daniel List over at Dark Journalist has done remarkable work on Theosophy and all that. I don't really know too much about it. I would definitely refer you over to him for a more in-depth role. But this was described as Britain's oldest political think tank. The oldest think tank. Not the most powerful one. The most powerful one is Chatham House now, Royal Institute of International Affairs. But definitely this one has been around for a long time. And, one springs the other and they're all interlocking. And you've got members of Chatham House that are members of the Fabian Society and likewise, right? So it's not to say that these are exclusive clubs that once you're in one, you can't be a part of the other. But when you're talking about Britain's oldest political think tank, you are talking about the Fabian Society. Okay. And, started by a guy named Frank Podmore, another closeted homosexual, just like the Rhodes, just like Cecil Rhodes, just like Milner, just like all of these guys. It's a very weird grift. And I'm not trying to bash people that are homosexual. I'm just saying that it's an unusual characteristic, a thread that we're finding in all of these guys, these genocidal world government depopulation that are taking over, like Cecil Rhodes, colonizing parts, dominate people and keep that under wraps. I don't know. It's just an interesting tidbit, and they all sort of have this theme. Push the idea of democratic socialism. So this is AOC. This is the Squad. This is all of them. Their ideas are Fabian socialists. That's what they are. So, but of course, democratic sounds so much better in the marketing. It sounds like, we all have about how equally fucked we're going to be, right? Because that's what socialism does. It just puts everybody down at the bottom. And what's interesting about this is that you will find when you dig into who is the driving force behind socialism, it's always the wealthy industrialist families. The people that, whatever capitalism is, it's the corporatists. Fascism is the blending of big business with the government to the benefit of the government, and corporatism is the blending of big business with government with the benefit of big business. I would suggest that these wealthy industrial, the Rockefellers, the Carnegies and everything, because of their relationship and their infiltration of the government, I would call them corporatists more than I would call them capitalists, because it's such a skewed version of capitalism. When you control the decision-making powers of the government through your money, you've put your thumb on the scale. As I put in the controlled demolition of the American Empire, when we're talking about the invisible hand, Adam Smith, the Scottish Adam Smith, who's talking about the invisible hand of marketplaces, which balances everything out. And what we said is that when you have corporatism and fascism like this, you get the invisible middle finger, right? Because they're putting their thumb on the scale to tilt it in a certain way. But socialism always comes from these wealthy industrial families because they want their version of capitalism for them, and they want socialism for all the poors so that they can control them. And in conjunction, like I mentioned, eugenics in the herd, deep undesirables. So the idea of the Fabian Society and the democratic socialists is slowly as it's slow infiltration as opposed to overt violent infiltration. They're not pushing, let's burn down the police stations and the Molotov cocktails. They're saying, do this covertly. As Saul Alinsky said, why use dynamite when you can use the media, right? And who are two of Saul Alinsky's disciples? Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. So don't do it out in the open, dummy. Saul Alinsky was the guy that said, when the people came to him and said, we want to protest this Republican candidate who we really hate, we want to make some signs and go out there and protest them at his rally that he's having next week. Saul Alinsky said, don't do that. Don't do it that way. Dress up like the Klan and stand as close to the candidate as you can. And every time he says something that you actually disagree with, just start applauding and make it look like the Klan supports this guy. That'll be way more effective. So again, you don't do it right out in the open with signs saying, we hate this guy. You dress up like the Klan and say, we love this guy. It's way more effective. It's strategic. Okay. And no, look, nobody's going to accuse Saul Alinsky of being a dumb guy, right? He had brilliant ideas. The problem is that the ideas were used in the wrong way. I mean, look, doing this covertly works a whole lot better than just doing it overtly. And I think that this is a concept that they push, that they understand, and that allows them to stay sort of under the radar for 100 years while this process is being completed. And for those of you in the United Kingdom, you have to understand that the Labour Party was created by the Fabian Society. And I don't mean financed or had some friends or had like a little bit of influence. I mean, they formed it. So when you see the Labour Party, it's the Tory, whatever, just replace Labour Party with Fabian socialists. That's what you've got there. And once you understand what the Fabian socialists want, then you will understand that your government is totally captured. Okay. So let's get to sort of, the sort of the creation of the name. This is just, so Fabian Society was named after a Roman general. This is a great name, by the way. If you're looking to transition at some point and you want a good new name for you, Quintus Fabius Maximus Verrucosus. That's a great name. He was called the Great Delayer. Okay. He was the Roman general who defeated Hannibal and the Carthaginians through a persistent wearing down. It wasn't overt battles. It wasn't some great battle. They're grinders. They take a long-term approach to it, especially when you look at how long this institution's been around. It's been around for over 100 years. They're still at it because they stay covert and they just grind you down slowly and slowly and slowly. So it's a gradual process instead of epic battles, right? That's kind of how they do it. And they're trying to remake the world in their image, but they allow the process to be hidden and just extremely gradual. But they do say this: keep it hidden and keep it gradual until it is your moment to strike. And then when it is your moment to strike, make sure to be ferocious when you strike, or else you'll have missed the opportunity. So they're not saying don't ever be aggressive. They're saying, take the long-term approach. If you've got the enemy encircled, don't fight them, starve them out. You know what I mean? Take your time in sort of a battle philosophy. So if you want to try and understand who these people are, why don't you let's take a look at their logo and their coat of arms, shall we? Because I think this is what gets the most play. People don't know the logo for the Fabian Society is a tortoise because they move slowly, right? They are trying to be gradual in this movement. But the coat of arms is what people really recognize. And if you haven't taken a look at this, just type in Fabian Society coat of arms. And what do you get in the coat of arms? I think it'll tell you everything you need to know about these people. It is a wolf in sheep's clothing. It is a literal wolf wearing sheep's clothing over it. You want to talk about bad optics. Yeah, what's your team logo? Oh, we're a wolf in sheep's clothing. We're here to help you. Really? You do say, oh, really? You're here to help me. You're a wolf in sheep's clothing and you're coming to save the day with your great ideas. Forgive me if I'm just a tiny bit hesitant as to what the fuck you're really after. So it shows that they will pretend to be the good guys in order to destroy their enemy from. I mean, again, the coat of arms and the logo tell you everything you need to know. We're a tortoise. We're going to take this gradually, but you are going to think we are the sheep when we are actually the wolves, and we will destroy you from the inside. So the tortoise. So we're going to move very slowly, and we're going to be amongst you, and you won't know that it's us. So when here's a line from the Bible, which I never quote because I'm no Bible scholar, but it says, "Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inward wolves." This group to the point to use that as their coat of arms. And by the way, they are very open to saying that they want a new world order of the Hermetics. So they want a world government. So let's talk about the world government, shall we? Because the book that really launched the idea of the League of Nations, the precursor to the United Nations, was a book called The International Government by Leonard Woolf, the Fabian husband of Virginia Woolf. And really, it was more like a collective work of many Fabians into this book. And they talked about this international government. And they talked about the push for it and the need for it. And this later became sort of like the guiding principles for the League of Nations, which failed after World War I, only to be sort of reincarnated later in as the United Nations after World War II. But this, so again, you have to sort of understand that the Fabians are all about world government. And I think that matters too, right? So, you have to sort of know what the end game is in order to determine, are these good guys, are these bad guys, or what's the deal? Well, they're bad guys dressed as good guys, taking a slow approach, and their ultimate goal is a world government. And as we get through this episode, it will become undeniable that that is what they are looking to do. So Fabians they created the financial arm of the international government with help from British economist John Maynard Keynes. You may know him as Keynesian economics. You might have heard that. He's a Fabian, right? He pushed for a new world order. Again, you think George H.W. Bush was the guy talking about this, or maybe you think that Alex Jones was the first guy that talked about this. No. John Maynard Keynes, economist, scumbag, was pushing for a new world order 40 years ago. All right. So this isn't some new concept. He was talking about, they were pushing for the new world order with a central bank for the world and a world currency. Okay. What could go wrong with that, right? Bank runs, whatever. He was deeply involved in the Bretton Woods Conference, which established two things: the World Bank and the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. So again, these people come up with these ideas for the New World Order, and then they start writing about it and publishing economic treaties on this. And then you get the IMF and the World Bank, and people go, "Oh, those are fine. They're fine." Really? They're fine? I've got John Perkins' new book right here, as I show the camera, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, 3rd edition. When John Perkins was out enslaving these countries into economic bondage, he was using money from the IMF and World Bank. I mean, it's in the book. Okay. So early on, the Fabians believed that the British Empire would be the most effective way to conduct reforms. Rather than focusing on all of the small countries of the world, they decided we'll focus first on British Empire, the countries that are under, the colonies of Britain, and we'll first work on them first because we're British and we have the best pipeline to get that done first. And then after we do that, then we could probably go after the rest of the world. So that was what them were in favor. The people that were pushing this idea of Fabian controlled government were actually very much in favor of, though they claim to be socialists, everybody's equal. We're going to help everybody else. These people were always pushing for monopolies on businesses. It's not very socialist when you have a monopoly on business. But of course, they want that in the hands of government, not in the hands of the people. And especially the people that were pushing for this were Sidney and Beatrice Webb, two of the earliest members. They were the driving force. They weren't the only founders of the Fabian Society, but they were two of the prominent members of it. And they were pushing this in the late 1800s. And eventually, Sidney Webb wound up founding in 1895, so we're talking a long time ago, the London School of Economics. Have you heard of the London School of Economics? Well, strap in because you're about to. The London School of Economics is an actual school, not like an online school, created by the Fabian Socialists to, quote, this is from Sidney Webb, the founder, to teach political economy on more modern and more socialist lines than those on which it had been taught hitherto, and to serve at the same time as a school of higher commercial education. I'm going to start incorporating the word hitherto in my episodes from now on. That doesn't get as much notoriety as it should. So look, this school is about teaching socialism. London School of Economics. You go, oh, great, I'm going to get a fair and balanced education on Adam Smith's invisible hand of markets. No, you're going to get a socialist indoctrination. And you go, well, are you sure that's, how can you be sure that this school is filled with bad guys? Well, the school was funded in part by the Rockefellers. Okay. So, there's that. And maybe we could take a look at some of the notable graduates of the London School of Economics. I mean, after all, if what I'm saying is true, that the London School of Economics is developing a batch of socialists determined to slowly undermine society and fold it into a one world government, surely some of their notable graduates would, lead you to believe that, right? So who's on the list? Well, Pierre Trudeau, when he wasn't busy allowing his wife to fuck Fidel Castro, he was a graduate from the Fabian School of the London School of Economics. He did a great job with Canada, and his son, or maybe not his son, Justin Castro, is finishing what his dad started, which is destroying Canada. Absolutely, positively destroying Canada with the help of Chrystia Freeland, I would say. Who else is a notable graduate? Oh, Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Union. So again, if you live in Europe, if you live in the EU, just understand that the president of the EU is a Fabian socialist who is intent on covertly infiltrating your form of government and folding you into a one world government, a new world order. That is literally what they talk about doing. So you in the EU, how did you enjoy your dark winter when you signed on to defend Ukraine, the shadiest, most corrupt country in the world, and allowed the Nord Stream pipeline to be blown up while you look the other way and pretend like everything's fine here? I mean, if I didn't know any better, I would say that you were being destroyed from the inside rather slowly, like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Who else is on the list? Oh, nobody, just George Soros. George Soros graduated from the London School of Economics, but I'm sure that's just a complete coincidence. Who has financed the destruction of the United States from the inside? Who has financed the woke district attorneys that refuse to prosecute crime? Who has financed the Squad? Who has financed all of these insane color revolutions around the world? The Orange Revolution, the Tulip Revolution, the Rose Revolution, the Black Revolution in the summer of 2020, the Black Lives Matter Revolution. Who financed Ferguson? George Soros. All of them. If you're looking for a boogeyman, if you're looking for a wolf in sheep's clothing, you can't do any better than George Soros. But of course, you shouldn't be surprised. He came out of the Fabian Socialist London School of Economics, where he was trained on how to do this. Crown Prince of Dubai, Saif Gaddafi. They're trying to distance themselves from that one. They're like, oh, we don't know who he is. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Because Muammar Gaddafi had a very good relationship with the British, before Hillary Clinton decided to bomb the wealthiest country in Africa back to the Stone Age. Who else is on this list? Paul Volcker. Paul Volcker helped to destroy America from the inside through banking. And last on this list, the boogeyman of all boogeymen, David Rockefeller. Again, when you're talking about an ideology which takes a long view of how to destroy countries, regions, ideologies, just look at the Rockefellers. They've done it. They've been around for 150 years. They've been awful the entire time. They've been constantly trying to unite the countries into a one world government. David Rockefeller, in his book and his autobiography on page 405, admitted to being a internationalist. He said, if those are the charges that he and his family are setting about to create a one world government with them at the charges, if these are the charges, then I stand guilty and I'm proud of them, in his autobiography. Again, this is not debatable. So what are they teaching? What are they teaching at the London School of Economics that's going to, well, I don't know what they were teaching 100 years ago there, but you want to know what they're doing right now? These are the groups that are housed at the London School of Economics. Then you tell me if you think that this is going to prepare a new generation to infiltrate countries and destroy them from the inside. The Center for Analysis of Social Exclusion. Oh, here we go again. The Center for Climate Change, Economics and Policy. Grantham Research Institute on Climate Change and the Environment. And lastly, UK Department for International Development to promote, this is what they say, to quote, promote sustainable development and eliminate world poverty by killing all the poors. No, I'm just kidding. I added that part in there. But I mean, really, am I that far off? Because it's funny though. Don't you think it's funny that the that a school funded by David Rockefeller and all these internationalists all of a sudden is very, very concerned about eliminating world poverty? Like, you're responsible for world poverty. You want to eliminate it? How are you guys going to eliminate it? Oh, we have policies that will take care of that. Oh, does it include starvation? Because I read the 1974 Kissinger memo and it involves starvation. Is that what we're talking about? Are you going to solve the world's poverty problem by eliminating all the useless eaters? Because in Kissinger's memo, it said the United States policy towards the rest of the third world should be that of depopulation. So what am I supposed to do with that? God damn, these people are diabolical and they're everywhere. And they've infiltrated all of these governments. They're in the United States. They're everywhere in the United States. This ideology it didn't just stay in the United Kingdom. It left. And let's talk about the early years. Let's talk about this ideology. So much like Darwin's theory of evolution, Darwin, a maniac of the highest proportions, a degenerate eugenicist who wanted to get rid of everybody. I mean, he really, if it were up to Darwin, there'd be nobody left on this planet. But much like Darwin, in this theory of evolution, which has really big holes in it, the Fabians were patient when it came to change, right? That again, back to the tortoise. They much as Fabius Maximus was patient towards the Carthaginians, right? He said, we're going to take this slowly. We're going to bleed them out. And then we're going to, when it's our time to strike, we'll strike. But until that time, we will be patient, which is not a normal trait of armies, right? Fighters want to fight. Armies want to get in, want to start destroying. So to calm them, and that shows remarkable restraint. It shows an understanding of strategy. And I think that's part of what makes this ideology so dangerous, is that you're not going to accuse these people of being dumb. Not at the top. They're very strategic about this. There's a couple ways that you can go about forming this one world government. But again, as David Icke says, you can't go from A to Z all at once. You just can't. You have to go from A to B and B to C. In order to make the changes incremental, not as noticeable, and have a better chance of them becoming permanent. If you all of a sudden lock everybody down, you're going to get pushback. If you can slowly influence the minds to get people to want to lock themselves down, you don't have to push as hard. You know what I mean? We understand this, right? So they adopted Darwin's concept of human political evolution. Okay. Sort of the political version of Darwin's human evolution. Slowly, the weak are removed. That's what they want. So speaking of Darwin, his bulldog, a guy they called Darwin's bulldog, was a man named Thomas Huxley. Huxley, you say? That name sounds familiar. Yeah, well, he was the grandfather of Fabian socialist Aldous Huxley, author of Brave New World. H.G. Wells, author of War of the Worlds, was a student of bulldog Thomas Huxley, and of course, a Fabian himself. Would it be any surprise to you to find out, since we're talking about H.G. Wells and we're talking about Aldous Huxley writing these transformative dystopian novels about the way the future is going to be, would it be any surprise to you to find out that George Orwell was a Fabian socialist? Because he was. Is it starting to make sense? Are you starting to connect these dots? Brave New World, War of the Worlds, 1984, Animal Farm, Fabian socialists writing these books, telling you about the way the world is going to be. You know why they're writing about the way the world is going to be? Because they intend to make the world that way. Slowly, like a tortoise, covertly, like a wolf in sheep's clothing. That is their mission. That is their motto. And you want to talk about predictive programming in Hollywood? Hey, the Fabians did that first. Predictive programming in their writing, telling you about this dystopian hellscape that's coming. Brave New World, it's more, biomedical. You'll put on the equivalent of the metaverse goggles. You'll be enslaved in your own sort of pharmaceutical hell. Whereas 1984 is the boot stepping on your face over and over again. What flavor would you prefer? So then we get into this interesting idea that some humans would turn into what Nietzsche called Superman or Übermensch. You familiar with this concept? The concept of the Superman, a man that is more advanced, physically more advanced, mentally more advanced, actually more advanced, technologically more advanced. This is, by the way, if you think that your Superman comic books just came out of nowhere, you would be mistaken. They came out of Nietzsche's concept of the Superman and was influenced deeply by Darwin and accepted by the Fabians. Okay. So the idea that again, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Animal Farm, George Orwell, Fabian. Superman, Übermensch, Fabian concepts that they adopted as well. Okay. And what did I say about when you're talking about world government? You always have that eugenics component to it, right? When you're talking about eugenics in the late 1800s, all the way through the 1900s, eugenics got rebranded. Do you know what eugenics is now? It's transhumanism. What is transhumanism talking about? Creating the Superman. It's all part of this plan. And so transhumanism has entered the conversation, right? And by default, so has eugenics. And when you're talking about eugenics, when you're talking about transhumanism, you are also then having the conversation about world government. So they all go together in these ideas, these concepts that we interpret as being sort of harmless. Hey, everybody wants to be Superman. You're going to stop bullets and you're going to save Lois Lane. You're going to do all this. Okay, great. You appear to be one thing and then you transform into something that's super. And then you go around and you're the hero, right? You want to talk about a long-term approach to predictive programming? There you go. Concept of Superman as a lead in to transhumanism, eugenics. Ooh. I mean, it's there. You just have to sort of allow yourself to go there. And you also have to recognize that a lot of these ideas and concepts and characters that have been elevated to positions where we all know their name. Everybody knows who Superman is, right? You have to ask the question, why? Why that over everything else? Why that over, these other superheroes, right? Why a superhero at all? So why is this being allowed to take hold in the public consciousness? And I would suggest that it is a covert, almost tortoise-like move towards changing the brains of people to get them to understand and accept the idea of augmentation, physical augmentation, becoming a who wanted $6 million man? They showed us, right? Remember when we were kids and watching that crazy ass show? We have the tools to rebuild him. $6 million man, transhumanism. Oh shit. Don't let me go down that rabbit hole. I'll be here all day. So anyway, the Fabian Socialist group had very close ties to all of the boogeymen that you would expect. The Rothschilds were deeply involved. The Rockefellers were involved. Lord Balfour was involved, which meant that there were a tentacle of world government. Okay, so you've got this Fabian Socialist movement, and you've got the biggest, most powerful industrialist families behind them, banking families and the Rothschilds, industrial families and the Rockefellers, Lord Balfour with gold and all these things. I mean, you've got all these groups, and it's like, oh, they're socialists? They want to share their wealth? Not really. No. What part of the Rockefellers do you think were enthusiastic about giving away their wealth? Everything that went to the Rockefeller Foundation is there because it's a tax shield, and it's there to do their dirty work around the world. They're not giving it away. They're spending it. They're not giving it to you so that you can pay your rent. They're spending it on programs to condition you to accept the fact that you have to go work your shitty job in order to pay the rent. They're screwing with your heads, right? And when they're not depopulating you, by the way, through the World Health Organization, when they're not forced sterilizing you with covert tetanus shots, with antigens in it that sterilize women unbeknownst to them, when they're not deeply pushing vaccines all over the region that Henry Kissinger outlined as the 13 countries to depopulate, when the Rockefeller Foundation and the World Health Organization isn't busy actively sterilizing people, they're there to help you, right? Right? That's what they want. So again, is it a stretch to think that the Rockefeller, Rothschild, Balfour ideology is going to be present in the Fabian Society? Of course it's not a stretch. It's quite obvious. It's a logical connection. And of course, then you look and you find out that they're not just connected ideologically, they're connected financially as well. Like I said, the Rockefellers paid for the London School of Economics. They paid for it. The Rothschilds were deeply involved in financing this. They created the labor movement as a controlled opposition. So not because they like the people, but because they want to control the people. And we're going to get to that in a second, because since the Fabians created the Labour Party in England, the following statement from the Labour Party manifesto in 1964 should really come as no surprise. And again, those of you in the UK that understand that you have a Labour Party there, I would like for you I almost guarantee you've never heard this following passage from the Labour Party manifesto that was written in 1964. Because if you did hear it, you would have a very hard time supporting them for anything. It goes like this. Labour remained faithful to its long-term belief in the establishment of East-West cooperation as the basis for a strengthened United Nations, developing towards world government. For us, world government is the final objective, and the United Nations, the chosen instrument. Enjoy voting for your Labour Party. Their stated goal is world government. Not my words, theirs. So, if people say, well, I'm voting for the lesser of two evils. Good luck with that. I'm voting for the Labour Party because, they support workers' rights and blah, 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 blah. They are trying to fold you into a world government. They are the party that was started by a group whose shield is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Again, if you're waiting for BBC News to tell you, this just in, the Labor Department is full of shit and they're running you into a world government, you're never going to hear that. You're just never going to hear that until you read this. Then you go, oh my God. I'm going to read it again. It's worth hearing again because it's so fucking crazy that you almost, it sounds like something that would be instantly dismissed, except it's in their manifesto. Labor remained faithful to its long-term belief in the establishment of East-West cooperation as the basis for a strengthened United Nations developing towards world government. For us, world government is the final objective and the United Nations the chosen instrument. So when I say that the United Nations, David Rockefeller Foundation, is pushing towards uniting the nations into a world government, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm not making that up. I'm not being over the top. I'm not saying crazy shit so that people will listen to the show. It's their mission. Now, listen, if you're fine with a world government, with a world army and a world currency, I ask you this one very, very simple question. Who will the world army fight? It will fight you, especially when you know that the ideology of these groups is depopulation. So the world army will have a fight on its hands. It will be an armed world army against a disarmed public. Anyone that doesn't get on board will be murdered. So, enjoy that. So the plan is to use stealth means to establish socialism. Again, a concept so dumb it has to be enforced at the barrel of a gun, which means the abolition of private property from the people. So you'll eat the bugs, and thus total state control over private property. Does that sound good to you? Now, I understand capitalism has a lot of problems, right? I understand that there's plenty of complaints to be had, and I'm willing to listen to a bunch of them, man. I'm not trying to say we have this all figured out. I am trying to say that socialism is not an option here. And for those people that go, well, real socialism hasn't been tried yet, you need to read these documents. If real socialism was actually tried here, you'd be in a world government by now, okay? The only reason why you're not getting real socialism is because they're moving it in incrementally and very slowly. And even still, all of those countries that have taken that up have ended with firing squads for the people, and then eventually firing squads for the people that started it. So let's move on. Fabians are well represented at all the bad guy conventions you would expect, the Bilderberg and the United Nations. They created the term. Have you ever heard the term meritocracy? That was coined by Fabian Michael Young, and it doesn't mean what we think it means. We're going to be judged on our merit. Like whoever brings the best ideas or does the best job or builds a better mousetrap, those ideas will be elevated. Actually, the definition that they had is rule of the intellectuals. And of course, that means them, right? They're the intellectuals in this equation, not you bug-eating farmer. You're a peon. You're a prole. You're a useless eater. You're not intellectuals. We'll do the thinking around here. You guys are too stupid to do the thinking. We're going to rule. Meritocracy. Rule by merit. No, rule by intellectual class. And who makes the decision on that? They do. So current recognizable Fabians, let's bring this in, right? Since you're going, well, who the fuck are these people? Would I know any of them? Do you know who Tony Blair is? Do you know who Sadiq Khan is? Mayor of London? He's doing a great job. If you don't get stabbed to death this afternoon, or wind up in a 15-minute city. Wow. God, what kind of maniac would come up with an idea like that? A Fabian socialist would. A wolf in sheep's clothing would. What about Gordon Brown? What about Keir Starmer? What about Peter Mandelson? These are all Fabians. What about every member of the Labour Party? Again, the Labour Party was started by the Fabian socialists. It's not debatable. They started it. Their guys formed it. It didn't exist before they formed it. Like 115 years ago or whatever. Also a member, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. No surprise there. But a new batch of is being fertilized with cow shit right now because they have a Young Fabians Club. Isn't that great? They're set to destroy humanity next. And you can almost see where this is going based on these groups that are housed at London School of Economics. You can already see where they're going. Center for the Analysis of Social Exclusion, Center for Climate Change Economics and Policy, Grantham Research Institute on Climate Change and the Environment, UK Department for International Development promoting sustainable development. So you can already tell where this Young Fabians group is going to go. They're going to be the eco-Nazis, telling you that you have to live in a 15-minute city and eat the bugs. So 200 deputy. When I said all the members of Labor are Fabian socialists, 200 of them are. I mean, I don't know if that's all of them, but it's pretty damn close. And listen, so when you were talking about the Labor Party, just remove Labor and just put Fabian socialists instead. Just go ahead and take those terms and just flip them, because that's what they are. And they intend to capture the working class while attacking education in order to remake society. And I would like to point out that the American education philosopher John Dewey Decimal, Dewey Decimal System thing, Fabian as well. Okay, so they're covert and they're all over the place. This isn't limited to just the UK. They have spread. So besides using the Labour Party, Fabians also used a group called Socialists International. And this was created in 1951 by the London Fabian Society in order to pursue their underlying interests of achieving world government. So this is, again, it's not my opinion on it. They put it right out there. They said this is again, one of the one of the important things to do is to read their words. I can come up here and have my opinions on it all day long, and I certainly do. But again, it's hard to get away from their own words. So when they create this group the Socialist International, in 1951, then there's the Declaration of the Socialist International at the Oslo Conference, June 2nd through the 4th, 1962. The following was said there. Again, just to kind of drive home the point here of what these people want. Quote, "The ultimate objective of the parties of the Socialist International is nothing less than world government. As a first step towards it, they seek to strengthen the United Nations so that it may become more and more effective. Membership of the United Nations must be made universal." Now you've got it twice, where they're on the record talking about world government, and they're on the record saying that the United Nations has been decided to be the vehicle for this. Slowly creeping towards a new world order through covert means and democratic socialist ideas. Like the Green New Deal. Remember AOC bringing that up? That idea that was so dumb that it said, people will be paid, if they work, or even if they don't want to work. It's like, oh, this is going to work out really well. Build Back Better. Understand? Build Back Better as a concept. Fourth Industrial Revolution, Great Reset. Is it starting to make sense here? Is it starting to connect these dots, man? Wolf in sheep's clothing. How perfect is that? Hey, listen, if you like this episode, you can take the additional step right now of sharing it with your friends and family. You can rate the show, subscribe to it. We appreciate that. You can follow me on Twitter at Macroaggressions, or you can go to the website, theoctopusofglobalcontrol.com. Thanks, everybody. I'll talk to you again soon.